In the Jungle with Jim Rome. Weekdays noon to 3 on WSKO Syracuse. A Cumulus Media station, the voice of the Central New York sports fan, The Score. 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Solo show once again today. Who knows if we'll ever see Josh again. Hopefully he comes back at some point. No, he is once again preoccupied this Saturday morning, so hopefully he will be joining us again soon. Busy stretch of time here for Josh. So it's just me once again with you for the next hour. The phone lines will be open the entirety of the show. 315-671-1260. That's 315-671-1260 if you want to chime in. Lot of stuff to talk about today. We've got some a lot of national stuff to talk about. We've got some football contracts to get into, some trades going on in Major League Baseball, and some other stories from around Major League Baseball. The big rivalry, of course, in the sport going on right now. My Boston Red Sox taking on the New York Yankees in a series at Fenway Park. Big game last night. Huge win for the Sox, who typically stink at or on Fridays, and they have now beaten the Yankees in back-to-back Friday games. So good for my Sox, good for baseball when both those teams are good, and both of them are good right now. So we're going to talk a lot about that. Like I said, a couple of trades. We've got the trade deadline coming up in just a few days on July 31st. So we're going to go through some of the candidates that might be traded that we haven't seen traded already, a couple of surprising ones. Or one surprising one, I would say, and a couple of other trades that went down, most notably from the Tampa Bay Rays. But I want to start in the world of football because we've had yesterday 2 contracts signed by young quarterbacks, and I'm not even going to say they're bad young quarterbacks. They're good young quarterbacks. The first one that was signed was Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins, agreed to a 4-year, $212.4 million extension, $167 million guaranteed. That made him the third highest paid quarterback in average annual value at $53.1 million. And I think Tua is fine. I think he probably is the person that Miami needs right now playing quarterback, especially when you've got guys like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, who, as soon as they catch it, are guaranteed to pick up another 8 yards or so, at minimum. The Miami Dolphins have not won a playoff game in 24 years. 24 years. And granted, I know, hey, this is them trying to get there. I understand, but if you take your quarterback, who has been solid the past couple of years, despite some injury concerns, most notably concussions, he's been very good numbers-wise over the past couple of years. But they haven't won a playoff game since I was a singular year old. There was once a time in sports when winning meant something. And obviously winning still means something. But if you were a quarterback, you needed to perform in big games to be able to build a reputation, to be able to sign that mega deal. You needed to be good when it mattered most. The Dolphins late in the season the past 2 years have fallen apart. And I know injuries have something to do with this. But when you get into December and January, no one is fully healthy in the NFL. There isn't a single team that doesn't deal with injuries, especially that late in the season. And when teams collapse, part of that has to fall onto the quarterback. I'm not saying it's all Tua's fault, but some of that has to fall on him. So for this guy who, numbers-wise, like I said, the past 2 seasons, he's second in yards per attempt, fourth in passing yards, fifth in completion percentage, fifth in total QBR, and fifth in passing touchdowns. Puts up numbers, but has not performed on the biggest stage. And you know who I'm about to compare him to? It's Kirk Cousins syndrome. Kirk Cousins has made a career out of putting up what I would call somewhat empty stats. It seems like every year Kirk Cousins has 3,500 yards, 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, like 10 interceptions. And his team is either doesn't make the playoffs or is bounced in the first round. I'm not saying that that's what Tua is going to be. He's still plenty young enough. But it seems like that's the trajectory we're on right now. And I think that's scary because I was talking to my dad about this yesterday, specifically about the Tua contract. This was before the second one was signed. We'll get to that one in a second. And he shares this take and about winning. And we were talking, and I said, baseball, I think, is probably the sport that does this the best, where your salary pretty much indicates where you are in terms of your status in the league. So Shohei Ohtani signed a 10-year, $700 million contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And he's pretty clearly the best player in baseball when fully healthy. Aaron Judge signed that massive deal with the Yankees. He's one of the top 5 players in baseball. Juan Soto's about to get a huge deal in free agency. He is one of the top 5 players in baseball. It pretty much goes like that. In football, the highest paid quarterback is whoever the next one to sign an extension is. I'm telling you right now, none of these guys, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, who signed that huge deal, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and I love Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert is another one. None of these guys deserve to be making more money than Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the only one that deserves to be making that kind of money because there isn't a single more impactful player in the NFL than Patrick Mahomes. We just saw a weaker Chiefs team than we've seen in years prior. And that team not only went to the Super Bowl, but did pretty well. It's unbelievable that this is how the NFL goes now. And Jim brings it up in the chat that it's like that at every position, and that is true. It is like that at every position. But at the same time, come on. With quarterbacks, when it's, when we're talking about running backs, it's $8 million a year, $10 million a year, whatever. With quarterbacks, it's 50, upwards of 55 which is the deal that was signed by Jordan Love, who has been a starter for 1 year. Granted, made the playoffs. Good. Won a playoff game. More than Tua has done. So good for Jordan Love. But he is now tied with Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence for the highest paid quarterbacks in football at $55 million a year. And $75 million in signing bonus went to Jordan Love, by the way. $155 million in full guarantees. Now, I will give Burrow a pass here because Burrow has been to a Super Bowl and has performed well in the playoffs. But Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love, two highly skilled quarterbacks, two guys that I think will have very good careers. I think we've seen far from the best out of Trevor Lawrence so far. And those are the guys that make the most money in the NFL. Like I said, at least Love has won a playoff game, unlike Tua. But when these are the guys we're talking about, and not Patrick Mahomes, I'll even throw Josh Allen in there because at least they win playoff games. They can't get past the Chiefs, like Jim mentions in the chat. Burrow's actually beaten Kansas City in the playoffs, which is almost as good as winning the Super Bowl a lot of years. It just blows my mind that this is the trend. Basketball is very similar. Basketball, it's, all right, who's the next guy to sign the Supermax? Because he's now the highest paid player. Why? I believe right now, after his new deal, that Jason Tatum is the highest paid player in basketball. And I'm a Celtics fan. I love Jason Tatum. He deserves every penny. He just led us to a championship. Him and Jaylen Brown. They both make Boko bucks. And I have no problem with that. But Jason Tatum is not the best player in the NBA. He's probably not one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Now, will Doncic sign a contract? Yeah. He hasn't signed yet, but he will make more money than Jason Tatum. But Jokic, he should make more money than Jason Tatum. Anthony Edwards is well on his way to being that guy. It's just, I've never understood, specifically in football, why that's the case. Do we really think that Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence right now, deserve that kind of money? No. And Jim says, yes, and football teams are desperate for a quarterback. Well, I understand. But there should be some form of awareness that, okay, this guy, for as good as he is, maybe shouldn't make more than a Mahomes, an Allen, a Jalen Hurts. Because they haven't proven anything. But of course, in football, you get a bunch of crybabies who aren't going to play in the preseason until they are the highest paid player at their position. Because, $170 million and $220 million aren't, or $170 million isn't enough generational wealth. They need 220. It's bonkers. And Jim says, Mahomes took less than his true market value. Yeah, he did. Because he recognized that, hey, you can't just pay me. You need to pay other people. Like the Dolphins. They have $310.8 million committed to just, and this is in guarantees, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Tua. That's $310 million in guarantees just for 3 guys. And you wonder why your offensive line isn't great and you struggle to find guys on defense. Blows my mind. Blows my mind. So that's the rant for today. Getting that out of the way. Because every time I see these new NFL deals, I just think the same way. So I had to get that off my chest. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be right back. More to come here on Outside the Box Score. Like I said, 315-671-1260 if you want to chime in. Phone lines open the entirety of the show. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe this is exactly how it should work in the NFL. I'd love to hear your opinion. 315-671-1260. We'll be right back after a quick break. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
There's no better way to.
Well, in baseball, that's the thing, is you do see guys take less money. It's not always about, okay, I need to be the highest paid player.
We know how hard it is for parents to find a space that inspires your child's creativity, boosts their imagination, and allows them to run freely, especially with the crazy.
It's not always necessarily a home team discount, like, oh, I want to stay here, so I'll sign for less money. But you do see guys, or the way they structure their contracts, like Ohtani's. Like, Ohtani's base salary over the entirety of his contract is $2 million a year. Because he knows, okay, I'll do well in endorsements, and then they're going to pay me $68 million for 10 years after that. That's an interesting way to structure a deal. And deferments obviously are hilarious. We talk about Bobby Bonilla every year. But it's different when it's, okay, I'm doing this so you don't have to pay me for the next 10 years. And you can build the best roster in baseball around me. And tax purposes, of course. Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. He's going to move out of California immediately. I'm just waiting. There was a tweet, a very cryptic tweet from a Red Sox Twitter person. Shout out Jared Carabas, who he sort of cryptically implied that the Red Sox might be doing something. So I am very, very excited to see what that might be. I love trade deadline season in baseball. It's my favorite. The trade deadline's like Christmas for me. Oh, yeah, James Paxton. I'm thrilled with that. Jim, you're going to make me go on another rant when we come back talking about James Paxton. I don't even. I'm thrilled with the fact that Casas is finally starting a rehab assignment. That doesn't even bother me. Like that, if we don't go out and get a first baseman, that's fine. We have our first baseman for the next 8 years, hopefully, if they sign him. That doesn't bother me. But the Paxton deal, there better be more. That's all I'm going to say. The Red Sox are good. There better be more. If that's what buying is at the deadline. Yeah, you know what? I've got a rant to go on now about baseball and teams that buy and sell at the deadline. Yeah, the classic. Well, our deadline acquisition was Casas coming back. No, it isn't. It's not deadline acquisition if the guy is on your roster. Well, that's the team this rant's going to be about, Jim. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. I was talking to Jim in the chat during the break. If you want to talk to me during the breaks, by the way, feel free to subscribe to me on YouTube. It's the Score 1260 YouTube channel. We're live there every Saturday at 11. And follow me on Twitch. That's marker_box on Twitch, which is the same as my Twitter handle. So you can follow me on Twitter there as well, marker_box. We do this every week. I got a camera set up in here. We got the chat going. So if you want to interact with me without calling in, just type in the chat and we'll talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. And you can see me during the breaks. I'll talk to you then as well. So we were talking in the chat over the break about the MLB trade deadline. Because for me, the trade deadline is like Christmas. I love the Major League Baseball trade deadline. It's so much fun. I've got Jeff Passan notifications on Twitter on all the time, but it hits insane on deadline day when you get that Passan bomb. But we were talking about specifically my Boston Red Sox and the trade for James Paxton that we just made. A lefty that was signed to a 2-year deal by the Boston Red Sox a couple of years ago, was hurt for like 95% of the time. And then he signs with the Dodgers, has a 4.5 ERA this year, and is designated for assignment. And we trade for him. A guy that was going to get cut, we traded for. And not only did the Red Sox trade for him, they traded a 17-year-old prospect who we don't know too much about yet. But the thing is, he like never swings and misses, especially on pitches in the zone. He doesn't strike out a lot. He's got really great plate discipline, and they think the power will come. I would have been fine if we traded for James Paxton and sent some low-level 25-year-old that will probably be on the roster at some point, but probably won't contribute in a meaningful way. But a 17-year-old wild card with great contact ability and great plate discipline seems like a lot to give up for a guy that is most likely just going to be our number 5 moving forward. I don't know. But Jim brought up that the front office will sell that as a big acquisition. And I think the Red Sox are probably going to do more. But the way these front offices operate, and I'm looking at you, Brian Cashman. The way these front offices of big market above 500 teams that the goal should be lift the commissioner's trophy at the end of the year. The way they try to sell things to fans around the deadline when they sit and do nothing ticks me off so much. The Yankees right now should absolutely be in contact with every team offering pitching. Garrett Crochet from the White Sox, they should be in contact with. The Tigers to see if they want to trade Tarek Skubal, which I don't think they will, but the Yankees should be talking to them. Mason Miller, the reliever from the Athletics, they should be talking to him or them. The Yankees' pitching depth is so poor right now, and it seems like they aren't even linked to any pitching at the deadline. Because like, oh, it'll just get better. Carlos Rodon is okay at best right now for the Yankees. Garrett Cole has yet to have a good start. Nestor Cortez is great when he's on, but as a soft-tossing lefty, you're not going to be on all the time. When you're not on, you're going to get shelled. We saw that in his last start. Clay Holmes at the back end of the bullpen has been a disaster. The Yankees should be on the line with every single team saying, give us some pitcher. It can be Eric Fetty from the Chicago White Sox, Jack Flaherty from the Tigers, Cale Quantrill or Austin Gomber from the Rockies. Someone to eat innings. Jim says call Boston for Jansen. No. Kenley is not going anywhere. The Kenley boys are up. We're always up. Kenley Jansen is not going anywhere. I know things got a little shaky last night. He had a couple runners on base in the ninth inning, up 2. But the Kenley boys are always up. I don't want him going anywhere. If he leaves in free agency to sign back with the Dodgers and then retire, that's one thing. Because he said he wants to end his career in a Dodgers uniform. That's fine. But you've got Kirby Yates out there, who's having a great season, even though he's 37 years old. He's on the Rangers having an awesome season. Tanner Scott on the Marlins is having a really good season. There's so many good relievers out there. Michael Kopech, who the numbers aren't great, but his stuff is off the charts. And the Yankees aren't linked to any of them because Brian Cashman is terrified of spending money. There was the report recently that the Yankees weren't interested in Jazz Chisholm, who the Yankees are in desperate need for infield help as well. They weren't interested in Jazz Chisholm because of his personality. They don't think it'll fit in the clubhouse. The same organization that employed Aroldis Chapman and Domingo Germán for a number of years. And they weren't concerned about how their personalities would fit in the locker room. The Yankees don't want anyone that fans might consider fun or cool. And sadly, a lot of the names I just named are really good and cool and fun to watch. But that's not how the Yankees operate, apparently. And like I said, Brian Cashman is obsessed with not making moves. And when he makes moves, it's not the right ones. Might be time for Cashman to hang him up. It might be time for Hale Steinbrenner, which will never happen, but might be time for that team to leave the Steinbrenner family. Because I'm sure George is rolling over in his grave watching the way Hale runs that organization. So that's my take on the New York Yankees in the upcoming trade deadline. We're going to talk more about the actual trade deadline, where guys might go. Good fits, I think, for some of the guys I just named. So we'll talk about that more when we come back. The actual trade deadline upcoming on Tuesday. So stick around. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
I'm Tiffany, founder.
That's the thing, Jim, is I don't think Aaron Boone's a very good manager. I don't. But something that I dislike more than that is a front office using a manager as a puppet. This is what St. Louis does. Is they hired Oliver Marmol just so he could be a puppet for the front office after Mike Schilt had done a really good job as the manager of that team. But he wanted to make his lineups his way, which is what a manager does, right? And has done for 150 years. And the Cardinals canned him after a playoff appearance. I believe he had just won Manager of the Year. Canned. And the Cardinals are widely regarded as one of the best organizations in baseball. I've heard from some people that isn't really the case. But managers are just, it's a different job now. It seems. It's a totally different job than it was even 10 years ago. Because front offices have so much control. Me, personally, if I'm a general manager who has never played professional baseball, or I don't even know what the highest level of affiliated baseball some of these guys have played, the one thing I want nothing to do with is lineup construction and on the field stuff. You know who could get away with that? Craig Breslow or Chris Young, the GMs of the Red Sox and Rangers. Because guess what? They played Major League Baseball for a long time. They know a thing or two. I didn't expect to have 2 rants today. I guess I'm just fired up. I just want a passing bomb to drop. Actually, we're a couple minutes behind, but not too bad. Not too bad. We're only like 5 minutes behind today. That's what happens when I start ranting. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. 315-671 1260 if you want to chime in. Phone lines open the entirety of the show. Just call during one of the breaks so I can screen your call and we'll bring you on afterwards. Or if you want to talk in the chat, go to twitch.tv/marker_box. We're live on there every Saturday as well, and on the Score 1260 YouTube channel. You can always find the show there at 11 o'clock on Saturdays. You can follow me on Twitter as well, marker_box. Yes, I refuse to call it X. Oh, I have a bone to pick with Musk here. So they got me. I had started live streaming the show on Twitter as well, which is what I originally did when I started. And I just recently started doing it again. And then all of a sudden, it's saying, and I did it for a couple weeks. And then all of a sudden it says, all right, you need a premium subscription to X to be able to live stream. So I'm like, all right, fine. I finally bit the bullet, paid for an app that was free forever. And so I did that before the show today, so I would be able to live stream it on Twitter. It's still not live streaming on Twitter. It still said I needed a premium subscription. I got one today. So hopefully next week it's back on Twitter and you can see it there as well. Jim says, yeah, Musk needs to make money. Yeah, that guy. And that's all I'm going to say about that is just I bit the bullet and now I pay for Twitter and I feel like kind of a loser. But anyway, the MLB trade deadline is coming up. July 31st, coming up on Tuesday. Or Thursday. What day is it? Today's 27th. It's in a couple of days. And we've got some big names that might be on the move. So, talk about some of them. Talk about where they might be going. The big one, of course, is Garrett Crochet. Nasty left-handed starting pitcher for the Chicago White Sox. He's young. He had come into this year with 73 big league innings. He's had some arm trouble. But now that he's healthy, he is one of the nastiest left-handed starting pitchers in all of baseball. Fastball, cutter, slider, occasional change. I know the Orioles just traded for Zach Eflin from the Tampa Bay Rays. But, God, Crochet would be such a great fit in Baltimore right now because Baltimore's pitching, when healthy, is deep and it's nasty. But they had a problem in terms of injuries. John Means, he means business, but he's out. Dean Kramer's been in and out. They've had a lot of guys not be able to throw consistent innings. And I know, like I said, Crochet's had some arm troubles in the past, but right now he's healthy. And I think Baltimore is easily a team that should see what they can do to get Garrett Crochet or Tarek Skubal if the Tigers decide to trade him, but I don't think they will. And because if anyone has the capital to go out and get a frontline starting pitcher, it's Baltimore. They just keep churning out these prospects like nobody's business. So you could see a guy like Crochet go to the Orioles. You could see him go to the Dodgers, obviously. The Dodgers always seem to make moves. And look out for the Padres. The Padres are playing some good ball, and they might try to buy at the deadline. There's two Blue Jays I want to talk about. So the Blue Jays have been underperforming pretty much all year. Below 500. I thought they were going to be competitive for this division. Something isn't right in Toronto. So, what if they decide to trade Bo Bichette or Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Now, I know a lot of Red Sox fans want Vladdy in Boston. And I can't say that his swing isn't built for Fenway Park, and he would hit absolute bombs over that monster out there on the left. Personally, I'm not too sure. I think the Mariners would be a great fit for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They just traded for Randy Arozarena. Jerry DiPoto is a trading machine, so I assume he's not done. All he does is make trades. I think Vladdy in Seattle would be just about as perfect of a fit as you can get. They just designated their first baseman for assignment, and Seattle needs something in their lineup, or someone in their lineup that can produce. And Vladdy is hitting like 295 this year. The power's a little down. I would love to see him in Seattle. And as for Bo Bichette, I know I'm on the official station of the Syracuse Mets, so any Mets fans listening might not want to hear this. He would be such a great fit in Atlanta. And they've done well with Orlando Arcia at shortstop the past couple years, and I know Bo Bichette's not having a very good year. He's hitting around 240, especially after his year last year. He would be such a great fit in Atlanta because they're currently in a fight with the Mets for second in that division and the top wild card spot. And I think the Mets should buy it something. They need more depth, the Mets. But overall, I think the team is solid. But they do need more pitching depth. Every team needs more pitching depth. But Bo Bichette in Atlanta, Orlando Arcia is not the hitter that it seemed like he was becoming. He's come back down to normal this year a little bit. And I know Bichette's not having a great year, but if anyone can bounce back, it's him. I don't think the A's are going to trade Mason Miller. I really don't. I would love to see him in a Red Sox uniform, personally. But I wouldn't want to give up what the A's are certainly going to ask for him. We already saw Randy Arozarena traded to the Seattle Mariners. I think that was a good pickup for them. The one guy that I think would fit on any contender is a guy who is a hero in Boston. He's 34 years old, but he's still got some bullets left in that arm. That's Nathan Eovaldi. Nate, come home. Come back to Boston. Help win another World Series. We know you want to. I never wanted to see him go. But Texas is not very good this year. Like I said, he's 34 years old. Come home. Make it back-to-back, why don't you? You won one with the Rangers last year. Let's win one with the Boston Red Sox this year. I'd like to see that a lot. I'd also like to see the Red Sox, like I said, pick up some pitching. The offense I'm not too concerned about. Maybe a guy like Brenton Rooker, Tommy Pham, fourth outfielder type, I think could be helpful. DH, because Masataka Yoshida, outside of that big hit he had last night, has not been performing super well for the Sox. And obviously, like I said, every team needs more pitching depth, needs more bullpen help. So go out and get some bullpen pieces as well. Got to take another time out. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. Yeah, Pat, it's another solo show for me. Jim, $20 million in baseball is nothing nowadays. I don't mind paying a two-time World Series champ, one of them with the Red Sox, to come home. Doesn't bother me at all. Well, yeah, but I think he's still got some gas left in the tank. I really do. He's been good this year. Yeah, I mean, 7-4 with a 3.3 ERA. Take that any day of the week. That AL West is interesting though, because the Rangers could get hot, and then you got just the Astros have been playing well. Seattle's going to get better, I think. It's an interesting division, at least for the top three, and then you have the Angels and Oakland. But I don't think people are talking enough about just how bad the Chicago White Sox are. They have 27 wins this year. They do have a shot at the 62 Mets. They really do. They're awful.
Playdate is an indoor play space for crawlers, toddlers, and preschoolers, designed to inspire creativity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but at the same time, if I'm a White Sox fan, there's a decent chance I never watch this team ever again. Like the Rockies and Marlins are terrible, but they have 38 wins. They have 11 more wins than the White Sox.
Website is making it easier than ever to find out what your car is worth and get top dollar for it. All you have to do is go to BillyWhitakerCars.com, click on Sell Your Car, and find out how much your car is worth. Input your vehicle information, follow a couple of steps, and you'll be on your way to being good to go. So if you need to or want to sell your car, go to my website, BillyWhitakerCars.com.
I need a nap.
Click on Sell Your Car. It's simple, it's fast.
It's about taking care of.
I really need a
and
nap.
Joe always says, but for the grace of God goes any one of us. And
Oh, but yeah.
any one of us
How about that?
in the
It's like, oh, you need Twitter Premium. Okay, fine, I'll get Twitter Premium. Still can't stream on Twitter. I paid for Twitter for nothing. Yeah, at least I can get money now with all those viral tweets I have. Now I'm going to have a stupid blue check mark for no reason.
Their house and everywhere at Drivers Village through July 31st. See more at dvused.com.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. Jim telling me in the chat today is Alex Rodriguez's birthday. I guess happy birthday to A-Rod, one of my least favorite players and personalities on television in baseball. But I hope he has a happy birthday. I'm sure Jose Canseco will be saying something about him on Twitter. Jose Canseco, a follower of me on Twitter, just like you should be, at @marker_box, which is the same place you can find the Twitch stream for the show, twitch.tv/marker_box. I'm not joking. Jose Canseco does follow me on Twitter. I don't know why. I don't know how that happened. But just randomly about a month and a half ago, I had a notification. Jose Canseco followed you. It's like, whoa, okay. I don't follow him. Oh, Jim, is it your birthday? Jim says probably a really good reason I remember that birthday. Happy birthday, Jim. Glad to hear it. Hope you have a good birthday. Hope there's some golf in your future. We've got a beautiful day today. Speaking of golf, I've got a fun opportunity on Monday and Tuesday. So as I've talked about before, I work at Bellevue Country Club. If you're watching the stream, you probably noticed I'm wearing a Bellevue hat and a Bellevue shirt right now. And so I work at Bellevue, and on Tuesday, we are hosting a qualifier for the U.S. Senior Women's Amateur, which is being played out in Seattle this year, I believe. And so we've got a work group chat, and one of my bosses, Roby, texted us yesterday. He goes, "Hey, so we've got this event on Tuesday. Does anyone want a caddy for one of the women?" So I thought about it a minute. I'm like, heck, why not? So I am going to be caddying for a woman in this event on Monday and Tuesday, because her name is Taffy Brower. She's originally from Florida. She said, I talked to her on the phone yesterday. She said she's played in multiple senior women's AMs before, the U.S. senior women's AM. And she's trying to qualify for one last time. She turns 80 in September. And I looked up her scores. She still shoots in the 70s, like fairly routinely. So I'm going to be caddying for her Monday during the practice round and Tuesday during the actual event. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I've never caddied before. I always thought I would be good at it. I always thought that Bellevue should still have caddies, at least optional. And I'm looking forward to that. So next week, I will be discussing on the show whether or not I help this woman qualify for her last U.S. Senior Women's Amateur. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited about it. Something I've never done before, like I said. I love trying new things, especially when it's golf related. And playing at Bellevue Country Club, it is not an easy course. It's tight. The greens are brutal. I was originally talking to someone that I'm going to have on the show coming up soon. Good buddy of mine, Johnny Gruninger. And he's going to be on the show at some point soon to discuss his accomplishments in the world of golf. He recently won our club championship last weekend at Bellevue, now back-to-back winner in a absolute battle of a match against Dan Young, who's an up-and-coming golfer. He's only 15 years old, and he's so good. So I was talking to Johnny, and I saw Johnny shoot one of the best rounds of golf I've ever seen. We were playing together in a match, and he was just lights out. Ended up shooting 67 at Bellevue. But when Johnny comes on, hopefully this coming Saturday, we'll discuss that further. But I was talking to him, and he goes, you can play the best golf of your life at Bellevue, and there's still going to be 4 holes that kick you in the teeth. And that's what happened to him when I saw him shoot that round. There's always a stretch that kicks you in the teeth. It's not always the same stretch. Sometimes it's the first hole, the 4th hole, and the 7th hole. Sometimes it's different holes, but there's always 4 that end up kicking you in the teeth. So I'm going to see if me and Taffy can try to avoid that coming up on Monday and Tuesday. It's not a fun course to walk, though. It's a lot of hills. Thankfully, I don't have to carry the bag. She's got a cart. We got to take one more timeout. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score. With me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner? How about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
The Score 1260.
Dude, some of these, and I know she isn't local, but Taffy, but there's some pretty good women's golf around here. Always has been. I know. Shout out Teresa Cleveland, who was my gym teacher my freshman year of high school and is a member over at Bellevue. She's a great local women's player. She's represented a lot of represented this area in a lot of different national tournaments. Very nice woman too. Still a good player. Morgan Pressel's sister almost took me out on 18. OB right with her drive. I've never played the private side of Drumlin's. Public side, played multiple times. I don't really like it. I'm not afraid to say it. Unless Drumlins wants to sponsor me. Yeah, the public side's never been one of my favorite local courses. I'm hoping after I'm done caddying in the practice round on Monday, I'll just get out and play Bellevue. I was asked to play tomorrow with Pat. Your brother asked me if I wanted to play tomorrow. Jonathan Kinane dropped out, so they needed a fourth. He's playing with your dad and your aunt's boyfriend, I think. And he asked me to play, but sadly I'll be working. Found a couple Pro V1s that day. I just played Saratoga Spa course for the first time on Monday. That was nice. That's a fun course. Really, like tree lined but not super tight. It was fun. I really liked the layout. I could have played better. I sort of found it on the back nine, but must be only tour balls allowed on the private side. Yeah, I was hoping to get Johnny on the show today, but he was unable to make it. I wanted him on the show because we are buddies, and he's just an interesting guy to pick his brain about golf. That's all I'm going to say, because he's not as buttoned up as a lot of really good golfers are. We played in a tournament down to Enjoy a couple weeks ago, and that was fun. Pro-Am tournament. That was the day after I watched him shoot 67. We played 27 holes together Sunday night, and then another 18 in Binghamton the next day with a 9:20 tee time.
All you have to do is go to BillyWhitakerCars.com, click on Sell Your Car, and find out how much your car is worth. Input your vehicle information, follow a couple of steps, and you'll be on your way to being good to go. So if you need to or want to sell your car, go to my website, BillyWhitakerCars.com. It's fast.
And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Wrapping up another fun-filled hour. I forgot to mention that the Olympics are underway. Summer Olympics over in Paris, France, going on right now. Opening ceremonies were yesterday, but the games start a couple of days before the opening ceremonies do. And some news on the men's basketball side. Obviously, USA, the favorite to win the gold once again in men's basketball, but right now Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis seems like they've got an illness right now, so they won't be able to, or they might not be able to play tomorrow in the opener against Nikola Jokic and Serbia. But Kevin Durant seems like he is coming back. He was dealing with an injury, so even if AD and Joel Embiid don't play, still got a pretty good chance. I know Serbia is going to be a tough test. I was talking to someone recently who said they weren't even sure if U.S. was going to win the gold this year. Said they thought that we might be in trouble. I don't think so. I think the USA will be just fine. That's all we do is we win gold medals in basketball. Outside of the year, we won bronze in, what was that, 2004, I think? And then 2008 was the Redeem team. So I'm pretty confident that USA will be able to hold it together. I hope everyone enjoys the Olympics. I love watching the Summer Olympics personally. I've actually had it on in here the entire time. I'm watching cycling. Yeah, that's right. Cycling. Hope everyone enjoys their day. Jim, happy birthday to you, my friend. Hope there's some golf in the plans for you today. We'll be back next week. Same time, same channel, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Peace.
listen on radio, smart speakers, and our free mobile app, WSK.